I'm moving forward every day, Jesus. I just let him lead the way every second, every minute, every hour of the day. I'm moving with Jesus every day. 24/7 with Jesus every day. 24/7. With Jesus, I'm moving with Jesus every day.
Hello and welcome to JC 24/7. I'm so glad that you're able to join us today. I am Nasha James and I will be your host for this series on well-being. We would have started with Pastor Lewis 2 weeks ago, and we continue by conversing with some families on their experiences related to different aspects of their lives. We're talking mental health, we're talking emotional health, we're talking physical health, and we're actually going to zone in on experiences related to the COVID-19 pandemic. We have with us the beautiful Seeley family today, and they are going to share some of their experiences during the pandemic and how they were able to maneuver what many people are calling a crisis. And at this point, I will allow them to introduce themselves, but I would have one family member introduce another family member. So who will begin?
Okay, well, I will introduce my son. This is Chad Seeley, my beloved son, and whom I'm well pleased.
Okay, so on to the left of me, I have my older sister, Chelsea Seeley.
Okay, hi. Well, I'll introduce my dad, who's next to my mom, Roland Seeley.
And I would just introduce my loving wife, Rachel.
It's so nice to have you. So let's begin with some questions on the COVID-19 pandemic itself. Tell us, what was that experience like for you? What was, experiencing a pandemic, perhaps experiencing the virus itself? What was that like?
Okay, well, if I can go, it took the world by surprise, and we were taken by surprise, but we understood the nature of the disease. We understood the need to obey all the public health guidelines and so on. So that we dove right into that, observing all the hand washing and distancing and all of those protocols. So, but it always had a sense of, is this really happening? Is this really? So you were confused, and especially the narrative that you were hearing about the new normal, and we've gotten so normal now that we've stopped saying that, but very early you were hearing that, and I remember mentally thinking, I'm going to resist that. I don't want no new normals. That is what I would resist, but we understood the need to do all the guidelines and follow the procedures. Yeah. But that didn't, it still came home, because my daughter, Chelsea, was the first to come down with it. But very late, the later half, when it was beginning to leave, Chelsea. So Chelsea, you could probably share.
Yeah, what was that like, Chelsea?
Well, with the virus itself, I just wanted to say, because I was thinking about when we first heard about the coronavirus, and I remember sitting down in school on a couch with my friends, hearing them joking about it, like how far it is. And I used to be like, guys, you shouldn't be making jokes like that, because when it reaches us, how sometimes they make that joke? When it reach you, well, boy, when it was the lockdown and you hear the first case, second case, it was like, okay, look how things turn. So that was really scary to know that just the other day, here we are joking about it, and now we are living through it. So that turn from a joke to seriousness was kind of like shocking. And even experiencing it, yes, it was in the later half where it was kind of like the normal to hear about somebody got the virus, make sure you take this, know what the steps, so you feel a little bit safer and secure. So It was, I wouldn't say it was bad. You know, it wasn't nice to have the cough staying up with chills, but it felt like I was just experiencing a cold.
Okay.
And I know that might be a little thing to say, but it really didn't feel a type of way.
That was the Omicron strain.
Right. Yeah.
So the virus was already around almost a year plus, you know, and you know, we really want to say thanks to God that He had kept us. You know, He preserved us, and the family was really sustained during the onslaught of it. And as it began to ebb, you know, and you heard the count going down and stuff, that's when Chelsea, you know, came down. In the early parts, we were very cautious. You know, I remember insisting that certain people, walk outside and dress on the outside and take your clothes off and wash it before you come in.
Spraying every doorknob.
And spraying every doorknob. You know, we were really, really cautious at the beginning.
And sanitizing your groceries.
And yes.
Yes.
And then we started to sort of relax a bit. For me, I remember in the early, when we just heard about it, everybody was kind of rushing out and buying groceries and stuff. But to be honest, we sort of held back and we were shopping in the local supermarkets, you know, just close by, picking up a few things here and there. But within a couple of months after it had been here in Trinidad, I actually went out to PriceMart for the very first time. And for me, that is when it really came home to me.
Right.
I saw all the protocols in place. You know, I walked in there and I saw the stickers on the ground talking about, you know, 6 feet apart. I saw the barricades with the cashiers. I heard on the PA system this automated voice announcing, you know, how far you should be from each other and to remember the protocols. And it really hit me that we are in a pandemic. And I think for the first time, I really felt a sense of anxiousness and a sense of fear, you know, that we were facing this thing.
And that brings me to talking about the lockdown measures. At the point when, you know, you actually could not go outside, you had to stay in your yard, that sort of thing. And then all of the other public health protocols that came in place afterwards, constantly having to wash your hands, being physically distanced. You know, how was that like? What was that like moving into that for you as a family?
Well, as a family, the lockdown did not pose any serious kind of, it didn't shake us up, you know.
In fact, I was kind of glad we were down. I was happy to be home. I was happy. I think working from home was like a dream for me. Okay. So when that came through, honestly, I felt I was happy for that aspect of it.
Okay.
To be at home and working from home, you know, and for me that was good. And another thing about it, when the curfew was added to, as a mother of young adults, it was good to know where my children were at 10 o'clock in the night. So that aspect sort of, you know, it worked for me. It worked for me.
You know, as the father, I you know, I was hearing a lot of the psychologists and so on talking about, you know, people getting each other's way and, you know, rubbing and so on. And I mean, I don't know if I'm sounding kind of queer saying this, but I like being around my family, my wife and my children. So they weren't getting in my way. You know, I don't know if I was getting in their way, but I just like being around my family.
So was it okay for you to be in each other's space all the time? Chad, let's hear from you.
I don't know if I'm not remembering the pandemic as but the rest of the members of the family all work in some kind of educational field. Right. So I think that workforce was the hardest with lockdowns and restrictions. They wouldn't work for a very long time. And from early on, I was back out to work. And so even while everyone else was probably home and probably didn't start working in the early half and then at the end was working from home, I was still going back and forth, going out to work and stuff. So I had a good amount of time not being home really with everybody. One of the good things with that, the first start of the pandemic, when I now started to drive, I didn't get to use the car by myself for a while, so I had to travel. But the traveling was real nice because you had to sit down apart from each other, so you didn't have to pay for 2 seats if you didn't want to sit down next to somebody. So traveling was nice in that first part, but I wasn't home a lot.
Okay.
For the pandemic, yeah.
I know, remembering that, yeah. And I remember, like, we used to be real cautious with Chad.
Yeah,
because his
using public transport.
yes, and all and his job is in the counter, so he's dealing with people. He was out, so like when he come home, we used to spray. Come in the back, we spray, and then we can't spray Chad out too much because he has asthma, so you had to like be real careful with the chemicals you're using, but at the same time you have to use it, So that was something I really forget. But with the lockdown, when I talk about the protocols, I didn't like the lockdown only because I like to be out. I love my home. It's safe, I like my parents, I love my family, but it's just something about just going down the road to just drive to the gas station and just, I really like being out. So knowing that there was like a time to be in, or like you really cannot be out because it's not safe, like it was kind of setting me up a wall, that aspect. It kind of felt like I was trapped, and it was like you're going up and down. I already see the stairs. I have to see it again. I experienced this room.
I noticed it was hardest on Chelsea, our family. It really was. And because of her personality, she gets her energy from being around people and being with her friends. Yes. All of her life, lots and lots of friends. And I think it really, I saw the effect, on her. The sadness, sometimes I'll share, sometimes we go in and the room is totally black. Wow. It's dark, she's in darkness. This is, during the day. And I think she really felt the absence of her connections. Chad, as Chad shared, and I'm not remembering, he was out, coming in. But he also is not someone who really gets their energy from people. He's in his quiet zone. That would have been okay, and I think for me as well. But it really, to a big extent, really did impact Chelsea.
Okay.
Lockdown measure.
Well, that brings us to talking about mental health. So let's describe your mental state in relation to your thoughts and your emotions when you were going through what would have been the heat of the pandemic. What was that like for you?
It's kind of scary because one of the continuous thoughts was when it comes to school and my field, because as a young person you have to think for your future. Yes. So you're at that stage where you have to think about your job, what you want to do, how you're going to settle, how you're going to put that foundation in. And then you've been prepping for that, and then the pandemic happened. But the field that I was in is a very practical field, with the music, performing, all those things. I was just getting into groups that I was doing, the gigs, all those things. So I was now building that life that I finally wanted. And then boom, the pandemic shut down that whole sector, and it's like, okay, what's next? What do I have to do? Do I have to change it? I probably shouldn't have gotten into music in the first place, because now look, it was a really dark space. Okay. Especially like continuing studies, being online. I felt like when I had classes, like, how can you hear me properly, because the Zoom only picking up a certain quality. So it's just like, well, I'm wasting money here. And it was like, I didn't even want to touch the violin for a while. Like, I honestly wanted to mash it up. Oh, wow. Yeah, and the good thing about my lecturer is, like, I spoke to him and like he understood like completely. He was sharing how his other musician friends felt, and he was like, if you need to take an ease up this semester, let's just do less pieces here and things. So he was a big help in understanding how the pandemic affected the musicians and the school itself, because with all the dancers and everybody, they really understood our students are going to be going through a rough time, so we're going to give them an ease up with these certain classes, and we're going to make it a better place to them. But that was constantly on my mind. Should I change my field?
Wow.
Yeah.
I think, Chad, you had some difficulty too because if you remember, Chad actually started university on the brink of the pandemic, yes? When he started, it was that semester.
Yes. Yeah.
And, yeah. And
Tell us about that, Chad.
if you remember.
No,
And-
I don't, the pandemic wasn't the onslaught of my uncertainty towards school anyway. That was just always there. So I would have started a semester before the pandemic, right out of secondary school, and stopped. And the next semester would have been
That's it.
Right.
But were you able to manage like your emotions? What about your sleep? Were you able to sleep well? You all seem to have a really close knit family, so I guess you had support. But in your experience, what was it like for you in terms of, did you have racy thoughts? Were you able to sleep well?
the uncertainty of your job and transport and prices. I think a lot of uncertainty from the country, so the media, what I was hearing from the news and what the ministers were saying, and how it was affecting the world. Those things was leaving me more anxious than anything else in the pandemic.
Okay.
My sleep pattern was all over the place because for a certain time we was home for like 2 months, and then it was on rotation. So for 2 months he was sleeping whole day, and then he was back out, and then he had 1 day rest, and then he was back out full, and then we went back to 1 day in, 1 day out. So it was the adjusting to that waking up in the morning and stuff. It's still fine. I had to adjust to wake back up in the morning, and so that was a hard part. In terms of we're talking about the social connectivity between us. I am not a very social person. I would say I have a battery, and once it run out, I would take my rest of myself. So by the time I come back from work, I'll be in my room, fall asleep, and then back to the next day because I use up my battery in work.
Gotcha.
So when I'm home, which would be time to connect with other friends, like who not working with you, or who would have been from school. I've lost a lot of connections with a lot of people, a lot of relationships, just because I didn't have the energy to keep it up, or the extra effort that you needed to put to maintain relationships in the pandemic. I couldn't find that extra energy. So,
Let's talk about that social connectedness. How?
Even before you go there, I remember being scared and the anxiety coming on. Every time I coughed, or if I, you wonder if you had. No, it was real. Sometimes I would laugh about it and joke about it, but it was a real scary. You'll feel an itching in the back of your throat, and you would wonder, do I have this?
Yes.
Am I going to die eventually? So that, it wasn't like plaguing me, but I remember having those thoughts, and it was really kind of scary. Sometimes in the night, when you're feeling this itchy throat, you just lie there and wonder, maybe this is it.
Wow.
So it was fear. I actually felt fear. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow, that COVID. So let's talk about the social connectedness and how, having to break your relationships or, continue online, WhatsApp or whatever social media. How did that affect you? Especially for young persons. Well, Chad, I know you said you operate on your battery, so we kind of got that. But Chelsea, you being a social butterfly, how did that affect you?
I honestly don't like WhatsApp because I feel that is what takes your energy. The trying to make sure you type this properly, make sure you use the correct emoji, because the facial, people could read the messages wrong.
Right.
I like to be in a moment.
Right.
I like to be here with a group and laugh, so whatever I say here at one time. And honestly, it's just being next to a person is where I get my energy from.
Okay.
So when that couldn't happen, I really I didn't feel like keeping up with people online. So I too kind of just, if somebody message, I was like, okay. Like there'll be a few persons so I would for sure respond back to. But other than that, it kind of just, I kind of let them go too. So I kind of lost, I won't say lost friends, but I kind of realized who I'm keeping around.
Okay.
Because those people that actually made an effort to, and who is really just in the moment persons and friends. And that's something that I always kind of had struggled. Because since I've always liked being around people, I never really pick the vibes properly because I'm always with them. So being separated from them kind of really did help me choose the persons I'm carrying into the next stage and making sure it's like solid connection. So it did help that.
It's interesting that both of you seem to have distinct personalities, almost opposites, but the pandemic sort of worked in a way to get you almost at the same point with your social relationships. And that's really interesting. Let's talk about, sorry, go ahead.
You could probably share this. We started Zoom worship with extended family.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, we never did it before. But we started Zoom worship on Friday evenings.
Yeah.
The in-laws and so on we will meet, and so we met with
Yeah,
my
we did that.
family and then
So
my
in
family.
some instances, it sort of pulled the extended family closer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because we were now, one of the things, of course, that came out of the pandemic is the learning curve
Zoom.
about Zoom.
Yeah.
And we had to master Zoom. Everything was on Zoom, the Zoom platform, you know, and that was a learning curve for me, but it was very useful. And so we started worshiping with the extended family, you know, mom and dad and siblings, you know, we would meet occasionally on Fridays. It kind of fell down eventually. because I think what happened to with the plethora of programs that now was on the air, we all had options.
Yeah.
You know, but in the early stage when you felt isolated and you felt nothing happening, we really made that effort to connect via Zoom.
Okay.
Via the WhatsApp, we started a WhatsApp group again for the extended family. We would share little jokes, we would plan activities, you know, and stuff like that.
And you saying that just made me realize like how much family really helped throughout this pandemic and how connected we got. Because like our family been close, you know, we always say for parties and stuff like that. So that's why we felt a need to do that Zoom and WhatsApp because it's like we not meeting each other. What we gonna do? But I got really close to my family and extended family. I got really close to them to a point it's like once I know I have them, I really didn't need anybody else. You know, and like even Chad as well. Like Chad is Jenny, my friend. You know, he's not a sibling, he's not a brother, he's really my friend. Because we spend all that time together, so we talking 24/7. He's the first person I would go to, and he even shared that with me. And it's like, oh, I didn't even know you felt like that type of way. So it's like the friendship between us grew because of the pandemic. The friendship between the parents, you know, is not just it's not just mom and dad no more, but like I needed that physical interaction. So
even in the bed.
I needed a physical interaction. So it's like even if I know the things I would talk to mom or dad about, I would talk with a friend first. Because I didn't want to do it on WhatsApp, I end up telling them.
Right.
So now they're the first persons I go to.
Right.
Again, I said positives.
Right.
Yeah.
Positives.
So we see that even in this crisis, we see that so many beautiful things came out. And we really acknowledge that your family is not only physically beautiful, but you have a beautiful relationship. So we're going to come back for part 2 of this to talk about ways in which the Seeley family would have coped with the challenges that they would have had, and they would share some advice with us on how we can cope when we have challenges. Thank you so much for joining us for this first session on our Wellbeing series. See you next time.
When I am a wasteland, you are the water. When I am the winter, you are the fire that burns, that burns. When I